This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. And here we are again. So,
Talking about one of Frank's favorite subjects, baseball. There's just no end to the baseball stories, are there, Frank?
Mm-hmm.
And just like Kansas has a lot of musical and acting talent, we got a lot of baseball talent.
A lot of baseball people, yeah.
An awful lot of baseball people. And I want to give a shout out to our friend Doug Wright. And Doug is, I don't know, some potentate with the Shawnee County Baseball Hall of Fame, which, it's just Shawnee County, but I'm telling you, they got a pretty prestigious lineup in that Hall of Fame.
Yes.
It's amazing when you look at it. But Doug provided the research for this story. So we want to tell Doug how much we appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. In fact, I'm going to do a story on Topeka Jack. And he was just recently honored, finally, after many years. And I don't want to get ahead of the story, but it is an interesting story. And yeah, you're right. Baseball, for some reason in Kansas, it really is a big thing. When I was a kid, they didn't come scout me. But the thing is the Chicago White Sox came to Kansas a lot to scout talent, and there were a lot of Topekans that got to go. And of course, we have people that have played in the World Series and everything else from the state of Kansas.
Yeah.
And we've done some stories about Tinker or to Chance to Evers,
Mickey Mantle, Mike Torres. Yeah. So go to our website and you can look back through the archives and find some of those stories.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to have a story about Topeka Jack. Here's a great story. Topeka Jack Johnson passed away in 1940, and his grave in the capital city's Mount Auburn Cemetery was unmarked for more than half a century until just weeks ago. A well-known baseball player, manager, and promoter decades prior to the integration of the major leagues, Johnson was also a prominent boxer. He later served on the Topeka Police and Fire Departments. On the day his marker was dedicated, a celebration of his life was held at the Brown v. Board of Education National Historic Site with a special celebration of Johnson's life. The headstone was provided by the Negro League's Baseball Grave Marker Project, a subsidiary of the Society of American Baseball Research. He founded and managed the Topeka Giants in 1906, taking them on a tour of Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, and Kansas. He went on to play for and manage the Kansas City, Kansas Giants in 1909 and 1911, and the Kansas City, Missouri Royal Giants in 1910. During these years, he worked with players like Tully McAdoo, Bill Pettis, a young 18-year-old Bill Lindsay, Bingo DeMoss, and Hurley McNair. In 1917, Johnson managed Jack Johnson's Topeka Giants, a team that played at least one game against the All Nations Baseball Club. The events honoring him were sponsored by the Negro League's Baseball Grave Marker Project and Shawnee County Baseball Hall of Fame and Shawnee County Parks and Recreation Foundation. Negro League's author Phil Dixon commented about the ceremonies, "I was very happy to see Johnson getting a bit of the recognition he earned. Back in the 1980s, I began writing about his accomplishments and researching his life. Roosevelt Butler of KCK provided me with a photograph of Johnson managing the 1909 Kansas City, Kansas Giants. That season, Johnson led the Giants to 54 consecutive victories." Fred Langford, who lived in Kansas City, Kansas, was the first to tell me about Johnson's boxing career and that Topeka Jack had fought world champion Jack Robinson in Leavenworth, Kansas. Langford also played for the Kansas City, Kansas Giants. Speaking of Langfords, Topeka Jack also fought Sam Langford in Topeka, Kansas. This information was first published in one of his books. There's much more to the story, and I'm glad to have played a role in keeping his history alive. And so there it is, the story of Topeka Jack Johnson.
There's a lot of different ways of doing this woodwork, but it's All of it still takes both hands.
He had been told that by the orthopedic specialist in Enid, Oklahoma, that they would have to fuse his thumb.
And I said, no, cut it off, because I didn't want it sticking up. And I found out about the Kansas regenerative stem cell and went to Manhattan.
We were so impressed with how royally we were treated the first time we came to Kansas Regenerative.
We came in and he took out the stem cells. It took about an hour for him to process them before they put him back in my knees and my thumb. And we were out of here in about 4 hours and on our way back home. And I'm in here today to have my shoulders, my hips, and my back done. So I'll be able to go back to my sawmill, my shop, and do about anything I want to do.